Hey guys, this is Jim, KN4YCD, and you're watching FEP Labs Radio. Thanks for stopping by. I want to take a relook at this guy. This is the QTY KP-WP12 2-meter 440 mobile radio. This is also sold as an NESECU WP9900, same radio, different model number. A couple weeks ago, I did a video on this and I had all sorts of problems. I've got everything resolved at this point, so let's take a look at what I had to do to fix it and where we are today. Stick around. So when we talked about this radio and I told you guys that I had bought this, I was excited about using it, but it started acting really sketchy. And like I showed you on that previous video, you know, every time it wouldn't take any button presses at all. So what happened, or what the problem is somewhere back here, and I thought it was the connector, and I opened the connector up, took it apart, and resoldered all the wires, and that made it a little better, because there were some cold solder joints and or wires were shorting out. So I put heat shrink around each of the wires, resoldered them very carefully, put the heat shrink over it, you know, and then did the shrinky thing. And that fixed some of it. But what it turned out was there's a short in the mic cable somewhere back in here. Because without this thing even moving at all, literally I'm holding the connector. Even before I resoldered it, it seemed like if you move this at all, the radio would cut on and off, which tells me the power, you know, is impacted. So even after I resoldered it, I was hoping that it was still jiggling something down there. I resoldered them. It didn't fix it, you know, completely. It was better, but it still was not right. So what I did, I ordered 2 cables off of Amazon, 2 mic cables. These are 8-pin DIN style connectors, I believe is what these are called. They look like, you know, like an 8-pin connector. So I bought 2 of them because number 1, I wanted a longer mic cable. And number 2, if I screwed up this operation, I had a backup cable. And if I didn't, then I'd have a longer mic cable. And the cables are, I don't know, $8, $10 on Amazon. So they weren't stupid expensive or nothing. So then I had to open up the mic, and I assumed when I initially started, I was going to be soldering 8 little teeny wires inside the mic. Well, as it happens, this is the inside of the mic. And I don't know if I showed this on the last video, but I'll show it here. So this is, I believe, called a Molex connector. And if I'm wrong, someone tell me in the comments. And this is broken out to the mic wires. And then, of course, there's a strain relief collar. And then it just plugs in that little adapter on the microphone. Right? So that's it. That's how it connects. So I could, all I needed to do is connect to this. So I didn't pay attention to that when I ordered the cables, or I would have ordered some Molex connectors or whatever those are. I believe those are Molex. But I had the cables. And so I'm like, you know, well, we don't need to do that. What we'll do is I'll keep this end and I'll just fix this, because this was not a problem. The loose connection was down here where it went to the radio and in the connector. So what I did is I just cut this off and then had to do a little mapping, because the colors weren't the same and the pins weren't the same in the new wires versus the wires that I got from Amazon. But it's still 8 wires and still an 8-pin DIN, so that worked out okay. So that's where we are. I got this wired up last night, and I did a quick test of it, and it seemed to work. So what I'm going to do is put everything back together today. But I wanted to show you guys the inside of this unit. So that is, of course, the screen and all the controls. And then we have the actual buttons. And of course on this, you know, you have the rubberized kind of sealed button. So this is supposedly water resistant. I think IP65, maybe, I can't remember. I didn't buy it because it was IP anything. So anyway, that activates the internal buttons. That's your PTT, and then this would be power on, power off, and then it has other functions, and then that one also. And those can be programmed for short press, long press kind of deals. But that's the inside of the whole microphone unit. And so there's our speaker mic right here. And then this printed circuit board and whatever that chip is, that apparently is probably some sort of video driver deal for the screen. And then whatever size screen that is, what is that, about 1.5 inches, 1.75, something like that, diagonal screen, which I think is a pretty nice screen. So anyway, let me put this back together, and we'll verify it's working, and then I'll hook up the power meter to it, and we'll test its output. So stick with us. Okay, guys, so we're back. I've got everything hooked together with the microphone. The wiring all is working fine. I've tested it. I've programmed it. So let's talk about the menus and some of the little quirks of this, and then we'll do some power tests because I have all that rig set up here right on the bench. The menu is colorful, and you can change these colors in each place to whatever scheme you may want. And you can, of course, reset the whole thing back to factory if you want. It has 3 transmit receive slots that are available. As far as I can tell, one at a time. If I'm wrong and someone else has this and it's dual receive, dual transmit, let me know. I don't have any real solid way to test that. We don't have enough 2-meter 440 action around here that I've got traffic going on all at the same time. I will say one downside is that's small, that you get, what is that, 7 characters and that's it. So it truncates it. It lets you type a little more than 7 because I put UHF space call in the programming software, but we ended up with UHF cal. And that's the same for the rest of them. Of course, I can get the whole repeater name in there. That's fine. So I can set these to whatever 3 pre-programmed slots I have. And I have more, it's just what these 3 are set to. And you can rotate these among them by driving the up-down button, right? So that's how you change those. And then the exit VM button down here changes which one you're talking to as you go through it. The menus work a lot like a Baofeng. You hit menu, and then you can type the menu numbers and it will jump to that. So there's menu 0, and then from there it's just up, down, whatever. So for example, if I want to change, let's change transmit power, I hit menu again, it moves it down to what the setting is, and then up or down to toggle through it, and then menu to takes me back to the item level, but it's now saved the new setting. So there's about 60 separate settings, most of which you can set through the CPS software. A few you can't, which is interesting. And I don't want to get into the details of it, but some of the menu settings to enable showing a channel name as opposed to the frequency or channel number have to be set from the microphone. I could find no way to enable that setting in the CPS. You can set it in the CPS, but there's no way to turn on that it's going to show you the channel name in the CPS. And it's possible I missed it. The documentation is thin. It's translated from Chinese. So, you know, I don't know. And you didn't buy this radio or not buy this radio because of that function, but that's what I had to do to get it to show the names. And the documentation, I will say, goes through each menu item with a brief explanation of what each menu item is, because the names that they show in here are not necessarily the most intuitive things, what they are. I mean, some of them, right? Beep. You could figure that one out. And then receive DCS tone, receive CTS tone, transmit DCS, transmit CTCS. Some of these are pretty obvious. Some of these are not what they actually are. Some of these are functions that as an American ham we would not use. It may be functionality. I know some of it's functionality that would be used in Europe potentially or Asia, but not here in the United States. I'm not sure about Canada. So that's the basic layout of this. I like the screen. Once you tweak the colors, the contrast is really good on it, so it's easy to see. I don't know how well I'll be able to see it in a car in sunlight, but as we have not had sunlight here in Alabama for 4 or 5 days, we've had rain light. I can't really tell you that. My plan with this small radio is to probably make a very small 2-meter go box with it or something like that. I don't know. And I haven't decided what my end use case for it is. I just thought it was a neat radio because it's so small. So let me unzoom the camera here. Oops, that's not unzoomed, Jim. There we go. So as you can see, the radio itself is about 4 inches by 3 inches, something like that. That is the entire radio body. The antenna input is there, power input. This is our microphone cable. And then on the front, we have 2 holes, a data port and a external speaker connection. Those are both 3.5 millimeter connections. The radio comes with a little cover that goes over that actually says the data hole. So the radio unit itself is somewhat weather resistant. The microphone also, the buttons inside, like I mentioned previously, these are rubberized touch buttons that are actually pushed up against the frame, glued up against it, so there's some water resistance there. So they're, I mean, I don't know that I'd dunk the mic, but certainly I wouldn't feel too worried about using it in the rain. And the same with the number buttons. All those are membrane style buttons. So anyway, so now without further ado, that's French for let's quit messing around. What I wanted to show was the output power ratings. So I'm going to scoot. This is my cell wave dummy load. And I'm going to scoot him back out of the way and get the meter up here front and center. And let's bring the camera in on the meter so everybody can see it. I don't have a fancy digital meter out here, sorry. I have one inside, but I don't feel like unhooking all that. So we're going to look at the old school analog. And we're on the 60 watt range for power. So I am on high power at the moment. So this is VHF high power on VHF call. And we are hooked to a dummy load, so we're not actually transmitting anything anyway. K-4YCD, test 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a solid 20 watts. Right at 20, maybe 19 and a half. And then we're going to change to UHF call. K-4YCD, test 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Slightly over 20 watts on UHF. So that's good. That's excellent. Now let's switch to low power, and then we'll check that on UHF and VHF. All right, UHF low power, K-4YCD test 1, 2, 3, 4. That doesn't seem low, does it? Let me double check our microphone settings. So let's go menu, transmit power low on UHF call. Huh. Let's check VHF call. Menu, transmit power high. Let's turn that down. Menu again to save it, exit. Let's double check that I saved it on UHF. Menu, transmit power low. So, VHF low power according to the radio. K-4YCD, test 1, 2, 3, 4. Test 1, 2, 3, 4. I call that about 15. Let's change the range on the meter to 15. We're on the bottom white scale now. K-4YCD, test 1, 2, 3, 4. Probably about 13 to 14 watts. And then let's jump back to VH or UHF again and double check that setting. UHF call, and our power is set to low. Okay, and full YCD test, 1, 2, 3, 4. So UHF looks like it's 20 watts regardless. Anyway, guys, that's it for what I have about this radio. And again, it has all the functions of any standard 2-meter radio. It is not DMR. It is not digital in any way. It is an analog 2-meter 440 radio. The construction on it feels pretty solid. This is a little cheesy feeling, but you know, from looking inside, when I showed you guys that earlier, it seems like it's a very solid build inside. It's just very lightweight. I'm a little concerned about how well my repairs are going to go over time. So what I will probably do at some point is figure out exactly what kind of connector this is and buy a new one, and then I will just cut all this trash off and fix a brand new connector to fasten inside. I have an extension cord on it already, so if I lose, 8-10 inches of cord, it's not going to be a big deal. I may wrap this with electrical tape as well. I've got shrink wrap on top of shrink wrap on top of shrink wrap, so it's shrunk well, but I just don't know how much mechanical tension that's going to want to take. But in any case, it seems like it's working fine. The radio runs for about 100 to 130, depending on where you buy it. I bought mine from Banggood, and it was 100, but it did not come with a programming cable. If you can find it on Amazon, either the AnySecu 9900 or the QTY KP-WP12, I believe the Amazon versions include a programming cable. That being said, the programming cable is an extra $20, so it saves you not a lot of money at all to buy it from Banggood. You might as well buy the more expensive version off of Amazon, because then you'll have a cable with it. The radio, like I said, I'm probably going to use it for a Go box or something like that, because it's so tiny. But I really like it. I think it's a neat concept. I like this setup better than something like the Vero Telecom 7500 that you had to use an app for. I do want to get on a soapbox about mobile radios. I have a Yaesu FTM 400 in my truck and love it. It's a great radio. It does everything very well. But what frosts me about it is the microphone and the head all have to go back to the body, which is in the back of my truck. So I have to run 2 cables from the back of my truck up to the front, one for the head itself and one for the microphone. And it's the same kind of setup on an ICOM 5100, for example. I wish manufacturers would, fix that so the microphone connection is coming out of the remote head, and I only have to fool with one cable from the base unit to the front end. It would make mounting options a whole lot less messy. This is neat because I have one cable, and these are standard 8-pin DIN cables. You can buy these off of Amazon. It's starting to rain, and I'm in a tin building. More liquid sunshine. So you could, I don't know how many you could run, 2 or 3. I don't know that I'd go much past 3. As long as it's working, I guess you could try it. But anyway, guys, that's all I have on this video. If you like this, give me a thumbs up. Make sure you stay subscribed to the channel. If you're not, please hit that subscribe button and hit the bell to make sure that you get notified whenever I publish any new videos. Guys, thanks for watching. 73, have a great day. And I did an intro the other day, so